So some of you are joining first time. So we have covered the preface to Nectar of Instruction, and we have also covered the verse number 1, some part of the first verse, the purport. I'm going to share my screen so you can go through this book, go through the purport of Prabhupada. Can everybody see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes. If you also want to turn your cameras on, up to you, but it's nice if you can turn on so you can see.
Wait.
Okay. So Nectar of Instruction, a little bit recap, because some of you, so this is a basic book, but very, very fundamental to our progress in spiritual life. It goes from Shraddha to Prema, just like we have Shikshashtakam, which goes from the first verse, Chetodarpana Marjanam, to the last verse, Ashlishya Vapadaratam Pinastu Mam. First verse talks about Shraddha, how to develop faith in the holy name, and then it goes to unconditional surrender, the last verse of Shikshashtakam. Similarly, this Nectar of Instruction is also, according to Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and I'll show you this slide. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? The Nectar of Instruction, how it takes you from Shraddha to Prema. What do you see on your screen? Do you see the...
Shraddha to Prema.
Yes. So the first 3 verses talk about Shraddha, how to develop Shraddha, how does a Madhyam Adhikari, how does he behave, what are things favorable for spiritual advancement, how to find a guru, what are the qualifications of a guru, and to those who are preaching, what are their qualifications to be preaching. Then text 4 to 6 talks about how we interact with devotees, the sadhu sangha. In text 4, it describes the 6 loving exchanges between the devotees. Text 5 and 6, text number 5 talks about how we should honor different devotees. We should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name. We should pay obeisances to the devotee who has undergone Diksha and is engaged in serving the deity. And we should serve the devotee who is advanced in consciousness and who is free from the propensity to criticize others. That is verse number 5. Then the verse number 6 talks about how we should not criticize devotees for their past, for their deformities in their bodies or bad complexion, skin color or caste or something like that, or their previous activities before they came to Krishna consciousness. This we discussed last time, right? There are different kinds of Vaishnava Aparadh. There are 6 kinds of Vaishnava Aparadh. Anybody remembers the 6 things, 6 kinds of Vaishnava Aparadh? Hanti, Nindanti, Vaitveshti. Anybody remembers that verse? To kill a Vaishnava, we had an acronym for that.
Joke bad.
Correct. Yeah. So not to feel joy, joke bad, not to feel joy upon seeing a Vaishnava. Let me share this if I have it here. Yeah. So there are 6 kinds of Vaishnava Aparadh. Not to feel joy. So it's very difficult, right? I mean, sometimes you don't like somebody, but if that person is a Vaishnava, we should feel joy upon seeing that person. So sometimes we smile, but in our heart, we may not feel so happy. But a Vaishnava is very rare. So we should feel joy. Oh, he's a Vaishnava. So we should feel joy upon seeing a Vaishnava. We should offer obeisances, at least with folded hands, or you can bow down. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha. So if you don't do all these things, then it's like killing a Vaishnava, of course. You kill a Vaishnava, it's a grave offense. envying a Vaishnava. Envy is very also deep-rooted. Uh, Even in devotional circles, envy can be there. B is blaspheming a Vaishnava. That's the first Nam Aparad also. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. So blaspheming, becoming angry upon the Vaishnava. So these are all the six offenses against Vaishnavas. And then there are others. What are these? Previous to coming to Krishna consciousness. So it's joke bad plus. So plus means P means previous to coming to Krishna consciousness, they may be engaged in some, activities. We should not bring that up. Sometimes, the devotee still has conditioning because we are not pure devotees. So we still have our conditioning, which we are trying to overcome. And we may commit some mistakes, or so others may commit mistakes. So we should not criticize them for their mistakes because they have last traces of anarthas that are surfacing, and it will, in due course of time, it will get cleared up. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the ninth chapter, Krishna says, um, one should consider that person saintly. Even if he has committed an abominable action, if he is staunchly situated in serving Krishna, but somehow or other, by force of past conditioning or by accident, he has had some mishap or something like that, then he should be considered saintly because apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. He says, Krishna says, because Shipram bhavati dharmatma. After that, he says, very quickly, he'll become righteous. Uh, Shashvat shantim nikachati konte pratijanihi nave bhakta pranashyati. Declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. So we are work in progress. So if somebody is in the shower and you say, oh, you're dirty. Yes, but he's in the shower. He's going to become clean. Yes, he's in the shower because he's dirty. So he's taking the shower, he's going to become clean. So, so there are some last traces of anarthas, and then there is unpremeditated fall down. Yeah, it's kind of an accidental fall down. And we should not criticize for social background. Oh, he's from the lower caste. Actually, he's from uh, this caste, that caste, or any deformity. So these are all the things described in verse number 6. Then text 7 of Nectar of Instruction talks about how we can attain taste. So it is described, it has everything. Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, and Ruchi. So how can we attain taste? Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Kintva Danudinam Khalu Saiva Jushta Swadvi Karmat Bhavati Tadgada Mulahantri. This verse is saying that everything about Krishna is very sweet, but we are not tasting it sweet because we are diseased. We are suffering from the jaundice. So in Ayurveda, the cure for jaundice, where you see everything yellow, right? We call it kamado, like that. Jaundice. When you have jaundice, Ayurvedic cure is to take sugarcane juice. So initially, if you have jaundice and you take sugarcane juice, you'll not feel you'll not feel the taste. You'll not feel it sweet. But if you keep taking the sugarcane juice, then it will cure the disease and it will start tasting sweeter. So similarly, the holy name, character, pastimes, everything about Krishna is very sweet. But I am diseased, so I don't have taste in chanting and hearing about Krishna. But if I keep taking the medicine every day, anudinam, and with adar means respect. Respect means with great care and attention, if I chant the holy name every day, then what will happen? That jaundice of avidya will go away and my uh, my disease will go away and I'll start tasting. I'll get a ruchi. I'll get ruchi means taste. So that text 7 talks about how you get ruchi. Then text 8 talks about the asakti. What will a person who has developed an attachment for Krishna? That is, he will chant and hear Tan Nama Tam Nama Kirtana Suk Tan Nama Sukirtanadu. Let's see which verse. Tan Nama Rupa Charidadi Sukirtanadu. Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishtan Vraje Tadanuragi Jananugami Kalam Naye Dakhilam Iti Updesha Saram. So he will get more taste and he will hear. So the essence of all advice is to 24/7, 365 days a year, all the time, chanting and hearing and remembering the Lord. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time. When one gets taste, after ruchi comes asakti, means attachment. And then that attachment becomes more like concentrated. It is called bhava. Bhava means emotional attachment. You cannot live without bhava, and then it culminates in prema. So text 9 to 11, they describe the different holy places and going up to Radha Kund. So like that, this is the flow of the nectar of instruction. So it takes us from beginning stages, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, to the highest stage, that is prem. So it's a very important book. In the preface, Rupa Goswami says, or Srila Prabhupada says actually, that advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the what?
Attitude
The
of
attitude.
the follower.
Oh, yeah. So it is not just the activity, but in what consciousness we do the activity. That will come in the second verse. What can act as an obstacle to bhakti? We are chanting, but in what consciousness? Or we are doing our devotional service, but what is the motive? So that determines. It's not the external. External is required, but the external itself does not determine the spiritual advancement. It is also your internal consciousness, the motive, the inspiration that is making you do that activity. What is your motive? So that Prabhupada said that it depends on the attitude of the follower. So the first verse talks about the six urges and one who can tolerate. Vishaheta means one who can tolerate. This verse is for memorization. So we will take the memorization after we finish the one or two verses, how to memorize. I did mention that briefly. For those of you who are new and you want to memorize, we can. So Vishaheta means tolerate. And so Vegam is coming 6 times in this verse. Vegam means the urge. Urge means like a force, the force of desire to speak, the force of desire to become angry. There is a force of the mind, force of the tongue, force of the belly and the genitals. So all these are considered the different forces, and one who can tolerate means resist and not act. There will be forces. We are in material conditioning, but one who can resist the demands if they are not favorable to Krishna consciousness, then such a person is called a dhira, a sober person. And such a person can prithvimsa shishya. Shishya means he can make disciples. He can instruct others. Sarvam apimam prithvimsa shishyat. So this we called it as a necessary condition, but not sufficient. In math, we say necessary but not sufficient means this is required, but these conditions itself are not enough. You have to be a devotee of Krishna because many impersonalists could also control all these 6 urges, but they cannot necessarily become instructor in spiritual life. Why? Because they are not devotees. Like we have that verse that one, Yei Krishna Tattva Veti, Shai Guru Hoy. Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyashi, Shudra Ke NOI. यही कृष्ण तत्ववेति Shri Guru होय. It doesn't matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, one is a sannyasi, uh, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra. If one knows the science of Krishna, then one can become a devotee. I mean, one can become a spiritual master who can instruct others. So there are different kinds of spiritual masters. We talked about Chaitya Guru, who is in the heart, then Pat Pradarshak Guru, one who shows you the path. Then we talked about Shiksha Gurus, who instructing, they're called instructing spiritual masters. And then we called the Diksha Guru, which is called the initiating spiritual master. So this verse is saying a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So we discussed all these urges in Srila Prabhupada's purport. Now we are going to discuss that part of the purport which describes those urges, but from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary. So that is it begins, let's see where it says here. It starts with Anuvritti. See, there's this thing. Yeah, Anuvritti, explanation of the Updeshamrita. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is going to, I mean, Prabhupada is given. It's kind of the same, but little bit more explanation on that. So when we take up spiritual life, we are declaring war. War against who?
Our own self, our own mind.
Our
Yeah,
senses.
mind, yes, you can say Maya, correct. War against the illusory energy which is affecting us. It's a war. And if you go to a war without a fighting spirit, do you think you can conquer your enemy? So you can't conquer your enemy. If you go into a war and you don't have a fighting spirit, you have no motivation. That will come in the third verse. Utsaha. Utsaha means enthusiasm. So one has to be enthusiastic, right? If you have to go to fight, then you have to be enthusiastic to fight. And if you let your guard down in the war, then what will happen? The enemy will attack. So in our life, we have to be always vigilant because Maya is always there, standing next to Krishna. Maya is always there. So we have to be very, very vigilant. There is one president, I think it's Thomas Jefferson. He said the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Like if you are on the border and you are not vigilant about the enemy attacking you, then the enemy will come in, right? We have in India, we have this India-Pakistan border. And if the soldiers on the India border are not very vigilant, they're sleeping, they're not, then what will happen? The terrorists will get in. And what will happen? They'll create havoc. So if you're not alert in our spiritual life, if you are not, like in our home also, we have the smoke detector, right? So as soon as there is little smoke, then what happens? It starts, ringing, sound, making sound. So before the smoke comes and the fire, so like that. So, and also when we drive on the road, if we little bit, they have those marked, if you swerve little bit from your line, your lane, then you get that sound. And oh, I'm getting into somebody else's lane or I'm going off the track, then you suddenly keep. So similarly, in our mind also, we should have like an alarm system, right? We should be conscious. And every time something happens and something we think that, oh, this is going to take away, or there is a chance that I will be carried away, then the alarm should go off. Oh, yeah, I have to actually now be vigilant. I have to take precaution. Krishna says like that in the Bhagavad Gita. From wherever the mind wanders, you bring it back. Mind will wander. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalam asthiram. Tatas tato niyametad atmaniyava vasham nayet. From wherever and whenever the mind wanders, bring it back under the control of the self. So when we are chanting, if we are not consciously chanting, then we are chanting the words, we are speaking the mantra, but mind is somewhere else and we are not hearing the mantra. So if we are not conscious of what we are doing, then we become unconscious and our mind just goes somewhere else, and then we don't get the same effect of the benefit of chanting. So so we should always be praying to Krishna. We should try and cry. That also we said. We should try and cry because our effort is not enough. So we need mercy. One time Prabhupada, he was in, I think, some temple, maybe manor, and he had just given a class. And in the class he said, pure devotee never falls down. And then after the class, Prabhupada was seen, he was praying to the deities. And then so one disciple came to Prabhupada and asked him, Prabhupada, what were you praying? And Srila Prabhupada was saying that I was praying that I will never fall down. Please, Krishna, let me never fall down. I was praying like that. So, but the disciple said, but Prabhupada, in the class you said that pure devotee never falls down. You are a pure devotee. And Prabhupada says, because I'm always praying to Krishna for protection, for shelter, I will never fall down because I'm always praying like that. So always taking shelter of Krishna. That is the way. We have to always take shelter of Krishna. That's why Prabhupada says, we should always chant the holy name, which is impossible for me to do always chant the holy name 24 hours. But that's where we want to come to, where we can always remember Krishna. All the principles are subservient to this principle. What is that principle? We discussed it last time. What is that principle? Everything is subservient.
Always.
Huh? Preeti knows that. Yeah. We cannot hear you. You're on mute. Always remember Krishna.
Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna.
Never forget Krishna. Yes. That is the principle. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na chatuchit sarve vidhi nishedyasur etayor eva kinkara. It is saying that all the vidhi and nished, vidhi means the rules and the regulations or prohibitions, nished are meant to bring us to this platform so that we can always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So we need some determination. We need fierce determination and gentle humility. These are the two things. If you want to make spiritual progress, we need fierce determination and gentle humility. Fierce determination means strong resolve, which Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita also. Vyavasayitmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakha yanantasya buddhaya vyavasayina. He says those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. Their aim is one. Those whose intelligence is many branched, they are not steady on this path of bhakti. So we have to somehow even if we get wounded in the fight, because in our fight against Maya, you can get wounded, but you get up and fight. It's just like a child learning to walk. This is described in, I think, Nectar of Devotion. A child learning to walk. He is learning, like those of you who have children, they're walking and they're falling. Then they get up again, walk a little bit, then fall. But they keep trying constantly. And because the ability to walk is innate in the child, eventually the child will walk because it is inherent. The capacity is there, assuming the child is healthy. So he will start walking. So similarly, the potency or the capacity to love Krishna is inherent in us. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi. It is already there. Love of Krishna is there in our heart. It is just covered over. So if we practice, then that love for Krishna will come out. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karayodai. So we need strong determination and gentle humility. Without determination, it's very difficult. I was before Mahatma Prabhu was here one time, and he was giving the example that if you go to a war and you have a gun, right? And sometimes the children have the gun where it only makes the sound, like big sound, but no bullet really comes out. So if you have a gun like that, where you are making the sound, but really no bullet is coming out, then what will happen? The enemy will initially be scared, okay, he has a gun. But then they will realize, oh, actually, this is only, the gun is only making sound. There is no bullet in the gun. So similarly, our chanting can be like that, or our devotional service can be like just the words are coming out, or we are just doing it externally, but internal consciousness is not there, right? So then we cannot conquer over the enemy by that kind of devotional service. So that's why we say attitude means you have to bring your heart. We have to, and if we can't bring it, then we have to be praying to Krishna. Krishna, please help me, please help me. One thing about chanting Hare Krishna is that Krishna, I need help. I need help. We are saying, Prabhupada is saying, we should chant like a baby crying for mother, right? Means I'm helpless. I'm helpless against your this powerful energy, illusory energy. Krishna, please help. But at the same time, we will have to have determination also. Just praying without determination is not sincerity. So we should gather all our determination as much as we have, and then we can be successful in this. So in Damodar Lila, we were talking about that two things are required. One is our effort. Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna. She was not able to bind Krishna, but she was not giving up. She was not giving up. Her gopi friends came because she ran out of rope. She didn't have rope enough to bind Krishna. So she took rope from her gopi friends. Gopi friends came and they had so much rope because they're all cowherd girls. They have a lot of cows. So she got, and she was trying, trying, trying. It is said that Krishna got caught in the morning by Yashoda. But till evening, she was not able to bind Krishna to the mortar. She was trying to. So after about 12 hours, she was not able to bind Krishna. And in the meantime, what happened? Her gopi friends were also, everybody had come and they were all watching. And they were telling Yashoda, Yashoda, today is Krishna's lucky day. You should let him go. Yashoda says, no, no, no. If I don't discipline my little Krishna, then he's going to be a spoiled brat. He will grow up and nobody's going to marry him. Like that, she was thinking as a mother. No, I have to discipline him. He has to learn not to create mischief like this that he did. He has to become obedient. So she was very strong in her determination. Although the gopis were saying, they were kind of giving her some feedback and discouraging her. But she said, no, 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 I will. She was also experiencing failure because after 12 hours, she could not bind Krishna. Still, she was not giving up. She was having failure and she was also fatigued. She was like exhausted. Bhagavatam describes how her hair had become loose, the flowers were falling out of her hair, there was perspiration all over her face. But still, she was saying, no, no, I have to bind. So, that kind of determination of Yashoda, then Krishna's Kripa Shakti, like overpowered. Actually, what was happening, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or one of the acharyas say that there was a debate going on between Krishna's different energies. There was the Kripa Shakti, who is the queen of all the energies of Krishna on one side, and there was Vibhuti Shakti and Aishwarya Shakti and all the different 15 other Shaktis on one side, and Kripa Shakti on one side. And they were debating whether Krishna should be bound or not. Other Shaktis were saying, no, no, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, is all powerful. How can he be bound? This will Yasha Shakti, the fame giving Shakti, was saying, no, no, if Krishna is bound, then his fame will go to hell. We cannot let him get bound. So they were debating. And then finally, Kripa Shakti won over all the others, and then Krishna got bound. So, anyway, that's a side pastime. But so we have to have determination like Yashoda. Yashoda is showing by example, how to bind Krishna. So, okay, so we'll read some verses now, some part of the purport. And then, so in his Anuvritti explanation of the Updeshamrita, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges. Material identification means the identification with the body. It creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. Body, mind, and words for speaking. When a living entity falls, it's called BMW, body, mind, and words. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. So when we fall victim to our mind's demands, body's demands, and gossiping demand or speaking demands, which if are not connected to Krishna, then our life becomes inauspicious. Why? Because we will stay in the material world, and staying in material world means inauspicious, because we are in the cycle of birth and death. Like in the morning we say, right? Sansara dava nalalidha loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatam. Sansara davanal means this material world is a blazing forest fire. Right? So starting our day with this, and of course then we get the mercy. Okay, so one who practices resisting these demands or urges is called a tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. So if we can resist the demands of the mind, body, and the urge to speak, then we are tapasvi. By such, but we can't just say no, no, no. Like you can't say, I will not speak. I will observe Maun Vrat. No, that's not going to work for long because we have the tendency to speak. So the positive is to speak about Krishna. So by such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to divert these things to Krishna. So there are different kinds of, so let me share this, we'll go over this chart, which I got from Sridhar Priya Prabhu. I'm using that. So this is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. We'll discuss the other two slides afterwards. So three kinds of urges. Speech, yeah, sometimes we just can't stop speaking, right? And sometimes we can speak nonsense for hours because mind goes on its own, like so many things there are going on in the mind. You can't stop the mind, and there is the body. Okay. So speech is prajalpa. So the karmis, jnanis and karmakandis, they're all doing sense gratification. Karmis want sense gratification at the bodily level. Jnanis want sense gratification at the mental level. And karmakandis they want to do yagnas and to better their life so that they get a higher situation for material enjoyment in their next life. So what is the solution? The solution is Hari Katha. And Prabhupada will quote two verses from the Bhagavatam. So many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books. And all this is the result of urge to speak. So much paper, so many things, advertisement, so much paper is being used to write so many books about so many subject matter. And to counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. Now, it doesn't mean that medical science is useless or engineering is useless. No. As long as we remember the goal of life, we can have, medical research and everything and all this. Of course, when we are sick, then we take medicines, which is coming from medical research only. But why am I living? That's the first thing. What is the purpose I'm living? I'm living for self-realization. So I want to live healthy. So I can take help of medicines and things like that. But the purpose of living is self-realization, to become Krishna conscious, by which I will not get another material body, and there will be no need for any medicines. If you don't have a material body, you don't need any medicines and things. There are no doctors in the spiritual world because there is nobody falls sick there. So, so, so many books are being printed and so many things are being said. Like there are chat rooms on Facebook and so many things. People are talking and talking so many things always. And now with cell phone and unlimited talking, you can keep talking and talking and talking. So there is Prabhupada is saying that this is all the result of urge to speak. So if you want to speak, then speak about Krishna, speak about spiritual subject matter, like that. We have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna updesh. Don't give your updesh. Give Krishna updesh. Speak what Krishna is saying. Don't speak because we are suffering from 4 defects. What are the 4 defects? We have first, we have what are the 4 defects conditions soul suffers from?
They have a illusion, making mistakes,
Hmm.
and their cheating propensity, and what was the other one? Cheating propensity, making mistakes, illusion,
Imperfect senses.
and imperfect senses.
Yeah, everything comes from imperfect senses. So our mind is imperfect, and that's why we make mistakes. And then we are in illusion. And even though we are in illusion, we think we know it all because we have big false ego. So we don't know anything. We are like a frog in the well. Prabhupada says, what do we know? How I came into this body? Where was I in my previous life? How did this universe come about? We don't know anything. What is going on in my body? I don't know. There may be something happening in my body. I don't know. Many times cancer is discovered very late, right? Because they don't know it's going on. It's happening in their body. I say it's my body, but I don't know what's going on in my body. So I have very limited knowledge actually about this world and even my body and so many things. So if you want knowledge about Krishna, and so we have to take help of Shastra like that. So we have to hear from Krishna. Krishna also says, you hear from me in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita,
First verse,
first verse.
Dakshana.
Tachrinu. Yeah. How does it start?
Um,
Samakrama. Mayasakta
Mayasakta
manapata.
manapata.
Yogam yunjun
Yes.
madashraya.
Ashamshaya.
As asanshayam
Um,
samagramam yatha gnashashi tat
Sargama.
shrinu.
So,
Shrinu, yes. He says, just hear from me, Krishna is saying. So, so this is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 5, 10 to 11. So these 2 verses are describing that those words that do not describe about the glories of the Lord are like a place of pilgrimage for the crows. Like garbage, when all garbage is thrown, then the crows will go there. The swans will not go to the garbage place. Similarly, when all gossip is going on and all talk about this other things, there the devotees will not go. Of course, we as devotees sometimes we also become interested, and we may hear for just for preaching purposes. We may read some news or something, but otherwise, if we get absorbed too much, this is then we should think this is a place of pilgrimage. Because we are not, see, the thing is, we are not interested enough in Krishna consciousness. That's why we have interest in so many things of this world, so many things that are going on, which are unnecessarily. Of course, for our job, if it is needed, then we need to. But otherwise, there's endless things we can talk about in this world. And we can miss out hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna. So like that. So it says, Na yad vachas chitra padam harir yasho, jagat pavitram pragrinata karhichit. So that those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, which can alone sanctify the whole universe, jagat pavitram. then those words are like a place. Tad Vayasam Tirtham. It is like a place of pilgrimage for the crows. Ushanti Manasa. Na yatra Hansa Niramanti Usikshaya. So the Hans will not go there. And then he says that, and Prabhupada gives this justification for writing the Bhagavatam in English, even though his mother tongue is not English. He's saying that, on the other hand, that those words which describe the glories of the Lord, Namani Anantasya Yasha, the unlimited glories of the holy name, the Lord, like that, those words that describe the glories of the Lord, even if they are abadhavati api, if they're not composed properly, there may be grammatical mistakes or things like that. And prati shlokam, in every shloka, there may be some errors. But such words, even though imperfectly composed, will bring about a revolution in the lives of the conditioned souls, which is misdirected. And those who are sadhus, sadhava, they will accept. Shinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Sadhava. So the intention is more important than literary, embellishments and things like that. So if there is an honest glorification of the Lord, even though there may be some mistakes here and there in writing, still the sadhus will accept it, because it is honestly from the heart. The person is trying to glorify the Lord, to spread his message. So he's saying, on the other hand, that literature which is full of description of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words. So this spiritual literature is completely different creation than all the material books. That's why when we go for book distribution, we say sometimes that this knowledge you will not get, even if you have gone to Harvard or Yale University. This knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, this cannot be understood, even if sometimes you academically study, but only when you read the authentic, interpretation or authentic purports of Srila Prabhupada, then it will make a change in the. So it's a different. All Bhagavad Gitas are not same. Sometimes people say, I have Bhagavad Gita, but we say, do you have Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada? Because this Bhagavad Gita has changed the lives of so many people. If you read this Bhagavad Gita, it will really change your life and it will make you a devotee of Krishna, which is the goal of Bhagavad Gita, to make you a devotee of Krishna. So it's a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So these words of Prabhupada, so many people became devotees by reading the books of Srila Prabhupada. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, he used to see in some article, how many times Krishna word is there, and if it is written to glorify Krishna, then he will pass it for publication, even though there may be some grammatical errors or something like that. And that's okay. So how can we control our speaking? Is the conclusion is that when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can we refrain from useless nonsense? Now somebody may say, well, that's impractical. Always talking about Krishna. What about my job? I have to talk. No, that's all right. You have to talk at your job. You may be a doctor, engineer, lawyer. You have to do. That's okay. But your occupation is connected to Krishna, and you are using your job to serve Krishna. So that way, in that sense, also it is okay. But other than that, what is not necessary, we don't talk. So because at job also you can talk so many things with your colleagues, right? You meet and so many different things you can talk. Instead, you can read something, you can chant Hare Krishna, because all this talking will take our mind away from Krishna. And as what is the analogy given about talking in the previous part of the purport? What happens? What is the analogy about talking? What does it attract?
Snake,
Who's
toad.
Snake.
Maya.
Croaking. Snake.
yeah, the toad.
Toads.
Toad is
Croaking, the
croaking.
toads attract the snake. So simply, if you're not talking about Krishna, and if you're talking except all the material things, it invites for death.
Mhm. Correct. So talking, the snake knows, oh, the toad is there. I have to go and eat it. So it will bring us back in this material existence, in the cycle of birth and death. And because we are interested in all these things. So that's why we should talk about Krishna. And we can talk. First, we have 2 ears and one mouth, one tongue and 2 ears. That means we are supposed to hear more. If we hear nicely with 2 ears, then we can speak nicely with our tongue, right? So Prabhupada was initiated, Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, because he said he likes to hear. Whenever I speak, he comes and he sits down and he hears. The Prabhupada says, yes, my spiritual master, I was waiting for Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to speak. Although he was speaking such lofty philosophy, and I didn't understand much, but I was just trying to understand and I was hearing. And so hearing, if you have heard nicely, then we can speak nicely. So hearing means also reading. If we have read the books of Srila Prabhupada, then we can speak nicely. So that's why we should read. So we are doing this, but you should also read the purport. Actually, next verse we are going to do, you should read the purport upfront also, so you will have some idea. So that's the um, about the talking. Now speech. Now he's talking about mind. Mind has two. He's describing there are two agitations of the mind. One, he says avirodha priti. Avirodha priti means unrestricted attachment. And then another is, so another agitation of mind is virodha yukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. When desires are not fulfilled, then anger comes. Kama krodho abhijayate in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that. So there is anger and there is unrestricted attachment. So these two things cause agitation for the mind. So frustration of material desires produces anger. So how to control the mind, that we discussed previously, chanting Hare Krishna, so many things we discussed. We'll not go into that because we want to finish this. We have discussed it previously, how to control the mind. Again, directed to Krishna. Similarly, the demands of the body. So here, avirodha priti and virodha yukta krodha. These are the demands of the mind. So, and now he's talking about the demands of the body, which is demands of the tongue, belly, and genitals, which are all part of the body. And they are situated in a straight line, tongue, belly, and genitals. So if we can control the tongue, then we can control the belly and the genitals. So the tongue is the most voracious, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his prayers. Tar madhye jivayati. Tar madhye means amongst all the senses, the jiva is the most difficult, and lobha, very greedy, and sudurmati, very difficult to conquer over. But Krishna, you are very kind. You have given us this prasad. So eating this prasad and singing the glories of Radha Krishna, we can control this tongue. So in the Bhagavatam, there's a nice verse. Let me share. I put down the number. So number, yeah, 11.8.21. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.8.21. So it says, Tavad Jitendriyo na syad Vichitandriyaha puman na jayed rasanam yavaj jitam sarvam jite rase. What does it mean? Although one may conquer all of the other senses, means your other senses are like the eyes, the nose, like that. although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. So if your tongue is not controlled, means in speaking and eating, then you cannot say that you are really a Goswami. That's what this verse is saying. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. This is Bhagavad. Sometimes you may think, well, I have controlled my tongue, but I am not able to control the other sense, right? But yeah, but if but this verse is saying if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. So that's the most difficult to control. And so there are six kind of rasas as it is described. So this is a prasadam prayer, that this body is a lump of ignorance, network of ignorance, jal. Sharir is a jal, network of ignorance, and the senses are leading us to death. And I have fallen, the jiva has fallen into this Vishaya Sagar, into the material existence. And of all the senses, the tongue is the most difficult to control. Kathina sansare. But Krishna is very kind and he has given us this prasad. So let us eat prasad to our full satisfaction and chant the glories of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nitai. And that is the literal translation of this. Now, eating prasad also, there is three things. There is variety of prasad, there is quantity of prasad, and the schedule of prasad. So that we will come later on. How we should be controlling all these things is also described. Prabhupada will say. So there are six kinds of rasas. Like there is madhur rasa, some sweet rasa. There is amla rasa. Amla is like sour. Lavana, salty. Katu, pungent or spicy. Tikta, bitter, and kashaya, astringent. These are the six kinds of rasas. So we like sweet, some sweet dish, some little sour, and then we like some spicy and all this. So there are six kinds of rasas. And if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. And then Prabhupada talks about eating of meat, fish, crab, eggs, and other things which we are not supposed to eat. But even if we are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. The use of pan or gutka or whatever, betel nuts, various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea. Coffee and tea is also included here, is indulged in to fulfill illicit demands. So all these things actually make us addicted. So we should offer, because all these things are not offerable to Krishna. So that's why we should, first is to, as soon as we take Krishna Prasad, we limit. And then, but Prabhupada says, if one accepts prasadam only because of its palatable taste, and thus it's too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. So we should be like what they say, half stomach you should eat, fill with food, 1/4 with air and 1/4 with water, something like that, according to Ayurveda. Of course, it's difficult to avoid when it's very tasty prasad, but we should also think prasad is prasad. It is not, it is offered to Krishna. So Krishna has taken it and Krishna's saliva is mixed in it, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. So we should, if it's seva, we should think it, we are honoring the prasad. So if we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, so we can offer palatable dishes, but if we think I will offer what I like and I will enjoy after, which is okay, which is called karma yoga. Whatever you do, you like to eat, you offer it to the deity. Of course, it has to be vegetarian and not having all this. But here Prabhupada is saying, intention of eating such nice food, we are all involved in trying to satisfying the demands of the tongue. Or if you go to a rich man's, a devotee who's very rich, and because they are very rich, they will cook very nice food, and I will go there and to eat prasad there, I will enjoy. Then also Prabhupada is saying, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. So So this verse he spoke to Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastime of uh, Raghunath Das Goswami. Right? Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a very, very rich um, person, Govardhan Majumdar. And it is described he had so much opulence. Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar, father and uncle, they had so much opulence that, it was like the opulence of King Indra. But he was so attracted to Lord Chaitanya, and he was married also. He had a very beautiful wife, but he was always trying to escape his home and meet with Lord Chaitanya. And every time he was escaping, he was getting caught. And so then the mother of Raghunath Das Goswami was saying, well, how can you really? I mean, he has all the opulence, he has such a beautiful wife, everything. He's not able to be restrained. Do you think these chains are going to restrain him? So eventually, Raghunath Das Goswami escaped his home because he wanted to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After he met Nityananda Prabhu in Panihati and he got the mercy of Lord Nityananda, then he was able to escape and he met Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. And there in Jagannath Puri, initially what was happening that because his parents were very rich, they thought we'll give him money. So he can eat nicely, he can live nicely. So they were sending money to Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami, with that money, he was having lavish prasadam for all the devotees. He was inviting there were nice feasts happening. Then one day he was thinking, why should I take money from my parents? Because they are involved in materialistic life. If I use their money and if I use their money and to, you know, eat all this food, then I'll get all these material desires and things. Then that verse we discussed, Vishayara Anna Khaile, what is that? Vishayara Anna Khaile,
Malin hoye man.
huh?
Malin hoye man.
Malin hoy man, yes. Our man will become malin. So he was thinking, yeah, I should not do this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said this. Yeah. So then he stopped taking. Then where is it now? How is he eating? Oh, he's standing at the Singha Dwar of Jagannath. And then everybody is coming there and they are giving some charity of prasad to Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das Goswami, after some time, he was thinking, I'm standing here, I'm thinking, this person gave me yesterday, today he will give me. I'm like a prostitute standing here. I should not stand here. So he didn't stand at Sinhadwar. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noticed, somebody told, he's not standing at Sinhadwar. Then how is he getting his food? Oh, he's going to the charity booth where they are giving some leftovers. He's eating there. After some time, he stopped that. Then they were throwing Jagannath Prasad to the cows, and whatever the cows would not eat, he would take it and he would bring it home, the rice, and he would wash it and he would keep it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling very, very happy at the progressive renunciation. Of course, we cannot imitate, but he was feeling very, very happy at the progressive renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami. And that's when he was saying this verse, Jivara lalase yeti ye iti uti dhai, Shishnodara parayan Krishna nahi pai. So one who runs here and there to satisfy his belly and genitals is not able to get Krishna. So he says, and then he told him, Bhalona khaibe, bhalona poribe. Don't eat nicely, don't dress too luxuriously. Of course, these are instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami, who is also like a renounced person. But it is applicable. We have to also be careful. So to counteract these demands of the food, then one has to fast, observe fasting on Ekadashi and Janmashtami, so that way we can. So like that, we'll finish this. What's this already? 12 o'clock. So there, Udara, there is the. So we talked about body, in which we talked about tongue, belly, and now it's coming to genitals. We talked about the mind and the speech already before. So now it's coming to genitals. So it is saying that according to rules of Dharma Viruddha Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava. Krishna says, I am lust, which is not contrary to religious principles, and that lust should be used for the propagation of Krishna conscious children, not otherwise. So that is how lust can be engaged in Krishna's service. And lust also means I'll become lusty for Krishna, means to hear about Krishna more Like that. As Narottam Das Thakur says, all these things can be used in Krishna's service, except envy. So, according to Shastra, one can get married and uses the urge for procreation, not otherwise. And this is also the instruction on how we can control our. And then the verses are quoted from Jagadananda Pandit's Prema Vivarta. And we should always remember the incident of Chota Haridas, how Lord Chaitanya rejected. Chota Haridas was in renounced order of life. So one day he went to beg alms and he came to the house of one lady, and she gave him rice. But in his mind, he was a little bit off. He was thinking little, had some lusty thought. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was eating the rice, he said, "Who brought this rice?" And they said, "Chota Haridas." And then he said, "Okay, I don't want to see him again." And Chota Haridas was, of course, then Chota Haridas, he was feeling very sad, and then he ended up his life. But in his form as Gandharva, he was coming and singing for Mahaprabhu. So sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict because Chota Haridas was also in the renounced order of life. And so we should remember how he was rejected by the Lord. So one should, um, so it's saying, do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments. Always remain humble and serve their lordships. Okay, so like that, and we'll end with this. So conclusion is that one who has controlled all his urges, then he can become a Goswami or a Swami. And it is not a hereditary title. Just as one cannot claim that he's a doctor because his parents are doctors. So many people have the title Goswami, right, in last name. But that doesn't mean they're Goswamis. Unless in Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, not Chaturvarnam Maya Shishtam, Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So according to our Guna and Karma. So, so either we can become Goswami or we can become Godas. Godas means we are servant of our mind and our senses. So we say either you serve Krishna or you serve Maya. There is no other in between. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's quoting Prahlad Maharaj. This is a very interesting, and we'll quickly end in 2-3 minutes. So Prahlad Maharaj, he was in the Gurukul. He was being taught by Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya. And they were teaching him all diplomacy, politics, how to conquer your enemies. Because it's a demoniac school. It's the school of Hiranyakashipu. So they were teaching him. And Prahlad Maharaj was kind of respectful, but he was not accepting those teachings because he was already a devotee. So after some time, Prahlad was brought to his father. And his father asked him, "So, beta, what did you learn in school? What did you learn from your teachers?" And first time, what did he say? He says that Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehi nam sada samudvagna dhyam asadgrahat hitvatma patam grihamanda kupam vanam gato yadharim ashray. He told his father, "Father, you are in this materialistic life, and that's why you're full of anxiety. I think you should go to the one." And Prabhupada says, Vrindavan. Take shelter of Hari. This is what I've learned from my school. So then Hiranyakashipu became very angry. And he said, called Sanda and Amarka, "Hey, how is he learning all these things? Are Vaishnavas coming as spies? If you are not teaching, then are Vaishnavas coming as spies and teaching him? Go, take him back and teach again." So again, they took him back. They were also very scared. They again taught him. After some time, they again brought him back to his father. Then father asked, "What did you learn in school?" Same question. Then this time Prahlad Maharaj says, "Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam, Iti Pumsarpito Vishnu, Bhaktischenna Valakshana, Kriyata Bhagavati Yadha, Tanmanyadhitam Uttamam." He said to his father, "Anybody who has dedicated his life in the service of Vishnu through the 9 processes of devotional service, I consider him the best." What are the 9 processes? Hearing, chanting, remembering, like that he was saying. Atmanivedanam, like that. So many different. Considering the Lord as friend, considering the Lord as one's master, um, Sakhyam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping the deity of the Lord, like that. Anybody was dedicated. chanting, hearing like this, then he is considered the best. And then he called again. Who has taught him? He said, we don't teach him. You can ask the other boys. They don't learn like this. So then he said, where did you learn this? That's when Prahlad speaks this verse. He says, this Krishna consciousness cannot develop. Matirna Krishne parato svatova mitho vipadyeta griha vratanam adanta gobhir vishatam tamishram puna punascharvitas charvananam puna punascharvita charvananam. He says, Krishna consciousness cannot develop. In whom? He's telling his father. Because you are griha vratanam, you have made a vow of enjoying this griha. Griha means this body. You have uncontrolled senses, and that's why even if somebody gives you instruction, you go to conferences, either by your own effort, you cannot become Krishna conscious. Adanta Gobi, because you have uncontrolled senses, you are going to the hell known as Tamishra. And you will simply rotate in the cycle of birth, chewing what has been chewed again and again. Like that, Puna Punascharvita Charvanana. So you cannot become Krishna conscious. Of course, then later on he says you can become Krishna conscious if you take shelter of a pure devotee and you serve, means you abide by the instructions of the pure devotee. Then you can become Krishna. So like that, Prabhupada is ending this purport with this quote from Prahlad Maharaj. So that means we have to have our determination also and then take shelter of Krishna through his devotees. Then we can control all these urges. Okay, so we'll stop there for today. Tomorrow we'll meet at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9 in the evening. But anybody has any comments quickly, we can, and any comments or any questions or any corrections or anything that you'd like to say. Then we'll start with the next verse tomorrow.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. What verses to remember from today's
So, as part of this course, you have to memorize the first 4 verses of Nectar of Instruction. So this is it is still time. We have time, but you can start with the first verse. So this Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapastha Vegam. So I was telling this last time that how you memorize is you take one line and you repeat it. At least that's how I do it. There may be other ways. First of all, look at the verse. Look at the word for word. Look at the translation and see how the verse fits the translation. So sometimes what is at the last, like dhira is here in the third line, but in the translation it comes as the first word. A sober person starts with like that. So it's not exactly line by line translation, but you know the overall meaning of the verse. Then you start with saying one line. So you say Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. So you repeat that line a few times till you memorize it without seeing. And if you forget some words like Manasa, then you speak that word a few times. Manasa, Manasa, Manasa. Then you say the whole line. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropastha Vegam. So you then say 2 lines after you memorize the first line. Or you say the second line and you memorize the second line. Then you say first and second line together. So Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropastha Vegam. So once you memorize the first 2 lines, then you say the third line. You memorize the third line, then you take the first 3 lines. It will take some time, but once you get used to it, then it will be easy. Then you can even relate. Oh, this word comes in that verse also. This word is also in that verse. Like dhira. Where does dhira come in Bhagavad Gita? Anybody? Kaumaram.
Dhirastatra na muyati.
Dhirastatra namuyati, right? That verse. How does it start?
Kaumaram yavanam jara.
That is not the
So
first.
tata dehanta prapti. Dhirastatra na muyati.
What is the first line? Okay, what is
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहि
Right.
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहि
it? Kaumaram
कौमारं
yavanam
यौवनं
jara.
जरा तथा तथा
Adihantara
देहान्तरप्राप्ति
prapti.
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यते.
Yeah, so dhira. So now you can say, oh, dhira, that sober person there also it is. So like that. So once we start, I mean, it will be difficult if you have not done it before, but we can try. Uh, and of course, memorization is one part, but because it's part of the course, but main thing is to actually apply the meaning of the verse in our life. Uh, so Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam, like that. So then a whole verse you can recite. I will also send a recording of this verse so that if you have the like kind of the a musical like meter, then it's easy also. Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jiva Vegam Mudaropasta Vegam Etan Vegan Yo Vishaheta Dhira Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Sashishyat. Prithvim Sashishyat. So you know all this, right? If there is a and there is a line, or you can, if you know Hindi, then you can take this also. It's also nice. But in English, this A with a little bar over it means it's a long A. And this S with a this thing is Sha. There is Sha and this is also Sha, Shishyat. But this Sha is this Sha and this Sha is this Sha. We have two Sha in our alphabets, right? So Yara Lava Sha, like that. So this Sha is there. And so Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. So Manasaha. So this is this two dots. Manasaha, if you know Hindi. Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegan, Yo, Vishaheta Dhira, Vishaheta Dhiraha, with the two. Sarvam Imam Prithvim Sasishyat. Shishyat. So like that. We can work individually. If you have any trouble, then you can work. I can so help.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else? And I'm going to forward this document, which has all the nectar of instruction, the flow on our this. So all the verses and all the flow and what all is there. So okay. So thank you, everyone. I don't want to take too much time. If there is no other comments, Hare Krishna, and we will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare